Welcome to Sunday Reads with your man Joel, and today I have a not so special guest. He's kind of special.
My feelings are hurt.
Mr. Raymond Mujuni, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
I was going to introduce you, but then I thought I might use only your Twitter bio, which might not encapsulate all that you are. So,
I've actually never edited my bio.
You've not?
In a long time. It doesn't say who I am, it says who I was.
You see? So, please tell the good people who you are.
I'm Raymond Mujuni, I'm a father. I'm the husband.
Okay, alright, sir.
That's all.
Okay, alright. You know, Raymond is saying this also because today is, where have you come from?
I've come from immunizing my child. Which is why we are recording. Do we have to tell the audience we're recording this late?
Yeah, please. We are open.
I made up for this with coffee. Anyway, yeah, the government says you must immunize your child when they turn 3 months. I took the child. The government showed up 1 hour late, but they did the work. It's better than nothing.
It's fine. I mean,
yeah, they showed up.
Okay.
That's all that matters.
All right. So, what do you do to provide for that young one?
The young one, I get by.
Oh, that's how, that's how rich men talk. I do a few things. Yeah.
No, so technically, my job title, I guess, is head of current affairs at the National Media Group in Uganda, and deputy director at the African Institute for Investigative Journalism. Those are the titles. I guess those titles appeal for the organogram of the organization, but what it really says is that I'm a hack at those places. Like for NMG, honestly, my job there is to understand the bureaucracy and make it smoother for everyone. That's really my job. So when someone says you're head of current affairs, it feels like a large thing. All it means is this large bureaucracy, we need to get work done, and work needs to be done smoothly, so I smooth out the bureaucracy.
So, do you think you're a good boss?
I don't know. I haven't lost anyone. No one has resigned under my watch, so I guess that speaks to my qualities or lack thereof.
But in my experience of you, you seem to be a very demanding person of yourself. Very exacting in terms of the way you write. Everything I've read of yours, I can see that you've gone through it multiple times. You're trying to make sure that you're getting the point across without either going to the point of hyperbole or making it so mysterious. So that's why I was asking that. With that intensity you have with yourself, is it something that translates to the people that you work with?
No, honestly. I demand a lot of myself. And I understand human nature. Not everyone can be the way that I am. I understand points of perfection and points of weakness. In my view, what I think are points of weakness in other people, which might be perfection on their part. So there are very few instances where I've had to dig in with someone over something. Like for the newspaper, honestly, I just have to go through it myself. If I find a problem, I'll just edit it myself. Even though there's someone whose job it is to edit, but I'll just edit it myself, because it makes no sense to tell them to edit the thing. Much later, over a coffee break, I'll tell them, oh, by the way, I think that the way that you edited this story could have been done better. Yeah. So I demand, I'm hard on myself, but I don't extend that to other people. It would make them break.
You've given yourself the leeway to break yourself. Okay. So, you're part of the National Media Group, and well, I've had this described as new media.
Yeah.
The reason I'm doing stuff on YouTube is it's more a hobby. I can get to play around with it. But one of the things I've found is the structures that started with television and media still sort of carry over to different platforms. Like the 30-minute segment, the way you structure the stories, even people who are doing new media in that format. So I'm curious for you what you see in terms of the new platform, and whether you think Nation Media should be doing more in moving towards new media.
Surprisingly, a lot of the institutions that are holding up what people call traditional media are archaic institutions. Why do you watch the news at 9? It's just the time that the commanders would relay information from the war. So because of that, the news, the BBC program news to be at 9, and that became a template for almost all other media.
Yeah.
But we're seeing much younger institutions coming up. One new media is big. Snapchat, for example, and WhatsApp. They've reduced the attention span of the average viewer to just 30 seconds. So even with editing videos, we are now concerned and say, okay, after 30 seconds, change the shot. If we've been seeing Joe, 30 seconds, change to Raymond. Yeah. We're concerned, of course, someone is moving the cheese. We're eating less and less of it. We've learned that, you know, you can't be a huge conglomerate anymore, so we operate in smaller silos to get things done. And then, yeah, I'm also a rebel to the institution. I work for them, but I'm a rebel, which enables them to see the point, really. A lot of media consumption is still pretty much tied down to people with money, and in countries like ours, the people with money are averaging 35 to 50. Their taste and preferences are still the same, so advertisers still look out for those things. But a lot of audiences have shifted. So you have much younger audiences which don't spend as much, but they consume a lot more content than the rest of the people do. So we are mindful of that. Yeah.
In your estimation, would you say that we are more informed about the things going on in our country now? What I mean by we is the age bracket, that target demographic of like 18 to 35. Would you say that the average person now is more informed or just has more access?
I think that the average person now is less concerned about things that don't affect them directly. I mean, current affairs, government, politics have a third knock-on effect. If an MP does something silly today, it might take a month to get to you. If you block trucks at the border, the fuel price might take 3 months to go up. But if you increase the price of a beer by just 1,000 shillings, it's instant. So I guess the thing is, a lot more people are more concerned about things that affect them directly, less concerned about the things that have third-party knock-on effects. And that's where the media has previously played. We previously reported government, previously reported public sector. Now we're more concerned about private sector. And you clearly see that even in like the news coverage. Now we're more concerned about people's lives. People are out there asking questions like, how do my plants grow? The car section on the monitor does pretty well. People just go there to Google how do I change a tire. Should my tire have 3 bolts or 4 bolts?
I need to get serious. Okay.
Yeah, but those are questions that people ask themselves. We're also seeing a boom in relationships, relationship content. Content that people are bored and people disguise and say, you know, I hate relationship radio and what. But that's content that people are consuming. People want to know, if my girlfriend leaves me, how long does it take me to get another one? What words should I say if I'm apologizing? Such things really appeal to younger audiences. Yeah.
But that's, well, I'm narrowing in more on you. That's not what I've been seeing. Focus on, you seem to be saying, right? Like, there are 2 things you've said that are very interesting. The attention span seems to be shorter quite a bit. And also, a lot of people are concerned with things which are a little bit more immediate. But you are like the vanguard of investigative journalism, which is long form, it's patient. You know, you're not just going to unleash a story. So my question to you is, you did say that you're a bit of a rebel. What made you move in that direction?
So I guess part of my rebellion, the biggest chunk of the rebellion really is not in the consumption. It's in the attitude we approach consumption with. When I got into the newsroom, I was the youngest in the newsroom for almost 4 years.
When did you get into
the newsroom?
Yeah.
About 2012. There. As the youngest, as 18, just get into the newsroom. around that time. I was the youngest. I was on Twitter. It wasn't a big thing then. There were probably about 200 users in Uganda. It didn't matter. Facebook was big, but it didn't matter to the news. If something happened on Facebook, the editors really didn't care. Facebook was actually a place you went to waste your time in the news.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the first thing was, this thing looks bigger than you guys think it should be. And also the years I've worked in the newsroom, one of the things is like, how different can we interpret this information? If the president says Uganda is a middle-income country, a guy at Alchemist may not want to hear that Uganda is a middle-income country, but how different can you look at that information that makes sense to a guy at Alchemist? How different do you make it like appeal to them? So I guess that's my rebellion, which is how different do we approach what are ordinary stories to make them relevant for people? Yeah, because at the end of the day, the things that have a third knock-on effect are quite impactful. Yeah, quite impactful. If your phone dies right now, you can't find a charger, you'll be angry for the minute. But if government bans the importation of chargers, it means your phone will be off for much longer. So yeah, the point is just make different ways of looking at information. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to press this point a bit. I've always wondered about how you manage the relationships, especially with the sources that you're going to be working with, how you get the intel. So how do you, without betraying too much, I know you can't say everything, you say, how do you maintain that fine line of having a relationship with the people who are going to provide a lot of the content that is going to be shared with us, while them not feeling like they are going to either get in trouble? I don't know how you balance that relationship. How is it that you've navigated that?
It's a tricky balance. Honestly, a lot of people that give us information do it in public interest. And part of that is they feel like the public interest is either being jeopardized or it will be enhanced if people know this kind of information. One of the sources I can speak about, because now he's long gone, is the Speaker of Parliament, former Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Mulani. He was such an instrumental source in his time, very instrumental. I can look back like 7 closed-door NRM meetings, and he's the one that said, this is what happened in the meeting. This is what I had. Yeah. And sometimes you ask mundane questions with sources. So you'll ask, what color of shirt was the president wearing? Someone says white, another will tell you, I think it was cream, a third person will tell you it was white. That lends itself to the fact that he was wearing a white shirt. So you have to have multiple sources telling you things about things, but all of them do it in public interest. And I haven't had scenarios where they run into trouble, and part of that is the way we protect them. Many times that we get information from sources that might run into trouble, we just say a person in a position of knowledge. So it's broad. If the meeting was with 8 people, any of the 8 people could have leaked that information. Yeah. Other times, you know, the source of information is the person you're reporting against. And that's something to be appreciated about public office. Yeah. A Speaker of Parliament could be angry about the spendthrift on a car that they're getting them and say, leak this information. It will look like people are angry at them, but the public interest is served in the long run, which is, if enough anger rises about this issue, then we'll look at it differently.
You deal with a lot of public figures, right? Yeah. Now, I'm curious because, as being part of the public, there are some things I don't want to hear from certain things. Like when MPs maybe will talk about they need money to go traversing. When I'm in my kind of moods, I sort of understand what they're saying, because I've been at events and MP shows up and everyone's expecting them to just like pull somebody on van and just dish out money, and that's going to happen everywhere that person goes. So I'm curious, do you see the way you've described it? You've sort of humanize them. I don't know if that's the right word. Like you can see that there's a situation in which even if you're trying to be an upstanding person, there are some issues that you're going to be facing. So I'm curious, do you think we take it too far in terms of the vitriol we give towards politicians? Is that's just their job? Is there something we need to understand to help us pick maybe the good ones from the bad ones? What's your
no? Anger is such an important aspect of public affairs. Even private affairs, anger is such an important. It's an important feeling. If you met your lover and you're angry at them, they would, because they genuinely love to see you happy, they would want to probe the source of your anger. Maybe help you, maybe not. And even in public affairs, that's how it happens. That anger is such an important component of the management of public affairs. What we're getting a lot more now is there's an ideological shift in the way people perceive the member of parliament. Ideally, power should have been decentralized. By decentralizing power, then you have a district, you have a cow, and the like. That decentralization didn't work out the way it should have. So MPs have become the source of decentralization, which is, if Joel comes from Fort Portal, he doesn't want to know the mayor of Fort Portal. He wants to know the MP because that's who you hit at the most. But also you have places as far as Otuke. The district budget is about 140 million shillings. The member of parliament's annual salary is probably 240. They earn more than the district. So the public vitriol and anger is an important component. But even in the solving of the day-to-day problem, it falls back. The MP is the leader, the anointed leader by the public to solve the problem. Even when there are other structures like the district.
Do you think you would ever become a politician? I'm putting you on the spot.
I do not honestly think that I will ever seek public office. In the sense that it's structured in Uganda, which is that you go out there, seek votes, get elected, and then sort of deliver on this heaven and earth manifesto. I really don't think that I'll ever do that. I guess that I play my part in public affairs, which is bringing enough information to the fore. I'm drifting a lot more now into policy and policy formulation, and that's good for me. Does it mean that I will run for the presidency? No. If I'm appointed prime minister, would I take it? Maybe, maybe not. It will depend also on how my wife feels, how the children feel, how they feel about it. But I guess that the thing about it is you can make a difference whether you are in office or outside of office, and that's the beauty about democracy.
You made your stand pretty well known, and you sparked a debate, at least in my circles, around, well, as a journalist, why is he telling us what side he's for? And at the same time, from my perspective, I was thinking that I can't box you and just say you're just a journalist. And this whole idea of objectivity, and objectivity means you don't have an opinion, you don't have a preference that you can't express, as long as it's not sort of influencing the way you report on stories. So, but it was quite public. So I'm wondering, in that time, were you conflicted about, I need to stand up for what's right, I need to march, I need to make my voice heard as a citizen, and you didn't sort of have thoughts about what does it mean for my career, or is that just our reading of the scenario?
First of all, there's a truly divisive culture in Uganda's politics, which is that you have to belong on one side. But it's possible that on different issues you can belong to either side of the debate. You can shift the spectrum as much as you want. For example, if you ask me about security, I know which side I fall in terms of that. If you ask me about policies, I know which side I fall. But the thing that I've always been wary about is everyone has a marketplace they go to. When Joel opens at Fly Hub, he's there for a business day, 8 to 5, that's it. When you check out, you're a different person. the thing with journalists is that no one wants us to check out. Guys want us to be in the lounge every time, never check out. And I guess that's wrong because, look here, we buy milk the same price you guys do. We buy tomatoes the same price everyone does. Our families are affected in the equal measure that everyone is affected, sometimes even more. And that means that every journalist at the heart of them has a way they perceive of issues. What the marketplace does is put in place institutions to make sure that your bias is checked at each point. So Raymond can be angry about a policy, but will that anger manifest in the nation media reporting? Maybe, maybe not, because there's other editors who I have to go and talk to, and those editors will feel different about the issue. And the sources that we have to go out and talk to, they will say different about that issue. So I've always told people, if you want balance and fairness, look for it in my professional work. If it's on my personal timeline, Nafa.
You came here to get rid.
Yeah, Nafa. That's me. I mean, I could be a journalist tomorrow. I might become a sweeper with KCCA. My views will be reflective. Does that mean that I've changed my views because I'm a sweeper? No. The other day I could become a member of parliament. If I'm a member of parliament, the 7 to 9 job of parliament, when that's done, I have to be my own person. And I guess that's the only thing I admire about like English politics, the ability to have an individual and the institutional, and the individual can vary between that. Yeah.
Okay. This is going to be a sensitive question.
Please.
Democracy. Do you think it works?
That's a tricky question. So I guess the thing I would say is democracy is necessary, but not sufficient. In the sense that for society to progress, it must be there. But is it the only component? No, so it's not sufficient. And that's, look at like the president of the country today was voted in by about 4 million people. That's the population of Kampala.
Yeah.
What do the other people around the country think about who's leading us? But there's no other way to get a president elected other than by choosing through a majority. And you've got to throw it at the majority and say, guys, this is the appointed day, please come in, vote who you think should be president. Yeah. If just 10 million people show up and of the 10 million, 5 million say this is the guy, then some other 5 million say, I choose this person, I'll choose this person, then there are folks who say, me, I'll just spoil the ballot paper. Yeah. So democracy is necessary, but not exactly sufficient. And why do I say it's necessary? You can look at all those other systems of government that have been tried before and tell me how that's going for them. It's not going great. It's really not going great. Yeah, we were monarchies before this democracy happened on us. It wasn't going great. Someone slaughtered 35 people. We made a great deal out of it. We made a whole Mother's Day out of it. But if Joel wakes up and says Raymond must die, in a democracy, Joel must go to a court of law. And the court of law can say, it's just Joel who thinks Raymond should die. A lot of people think that Raymond should survive. You get to see another day. And that's the beauty about democracy, that a lot of I guess the fear that many people have around democracy recently is there's a lot of anger that it doesn't solve, but it's necessary for that anger. So the people who, for example, are angry about the way democracy works still want their freedom to speak, which they don't link back to the fact that there's a democracy. They still want to own their property. But you can't own your property unless you are in a democracy. Ownership of property is a truly democratic component. So yeah, it's I guess I'd say it's necessary but not sufficient. It has its flaws, multiple flaws, and we can spend a whole day speaking about the flaws. But if you removed it from the governance of the society, my goodness, you don't want to see what that looks like. Societies have tried this before.
Yeah.
Your viewers should encounter a man called Genghis Khan.
You're really going to the OG. You're going to the OG mass.
Yeah, they should encounter a guy called Genghis Khan, because Genghis Khan is the representation of authoritarianism. A lot of authoritarianism truly sprang out of Genghis Khan's ruling of the European Empire and the Asian empires. And the thing that he did is he killed people. Like there was no debate about what kill. Some places he made mountains of heads. Make a mountain so that they can truly be subservient.
He was the first green leader. He actually made sure.
Yeah. So the world has come from Genghis Khan to where we are today. Kaguta Museveni, Boris Johnson, Paul Kagame.
Yeah.
And if you don't see that as progress, then we'd have to have a different debate.
And all right. So the premises, I'm still questioning it. I'm reading this book Against Democracy, and one of the points in the book that I'm still contending with is, on paper it makes a lot of sense, right? But it assumes individuals are, the example they use is like Vulcans, that they are going to be Russian. Give the person enough information, they'll say, yes, in fact, now I'm going to decide and do this. But he says it's more like sports hooligans. Like people who are very well informed about their team, but that information is motivated. And so you give the same information, people will still fight. Now, this is why earlier we were talking about do we have friends who are of different political persuasions from us, and do we really listen to them? So my question to you is, do you really think dialogue is happening across the divides? To me, the feeling is that the divide is expanding, and the dialogue is only happening on a certain number of issues, but the real pressing desires, people just feel like we're not even communicating, but we are stuck together in this community. So how does dialogue happen in that scenario where we have to vote on something? I have a completely different view from yours, and we're just not agreeing. In real life, if I'm not in your home, I can say we'll agree to disagree, and I walk away from you. But we can't agree to disagree with certain things. We have to make a decision. How do you move past that impasse?
That's not a problem of democracy, actually. The thing that you're looking for is decent dialogue. There are various forms of dialogue. If you look at like the French Revolution, the people that went after the rich, that was dialogue. This is how I feel about your wealth. I feel like you should die.
The guillotine was a comment. I feel like you have a lot.
Yes, I feel like you have a lot. But even the powerful, the Marie Antoinette of this world, you own thousands of pairs of shoes, and you don't feel like that's a problem to you? Yeah, so that's not a problem of democracy, actually, which is why I said, democracy is necessary but not exactly sufficient. What democracy does is create those institutions through which a dialogue can happen, particularly around public affairs. So if you're really pressed about something, you talk to a member of parliament, they raise it on the floor of parliament, and there will be a dialogue about it. The chambers of the house are clear on one side, and the other side is the opposition, and they will speak out and they will debate it, they will thrash it. The outcome may not be what you like, but doesn't mean that that's not democracy.
So this is the point that I'm bringing. So if the outcomes are consistently feeling that they're not the ones that we want, what do you say to someone who goes, we've voted, recently with the Roe v. Wade situation in the US, the argument especially from the leftists, you've told us to vote. We've voted, we made our voice heard, but it just seems that minorities are controlling the power centers. So what do you do in that case? Because to that person, they would say, yeah, we're doing the things that democracy is supposed to do, and the reason we believe in it is we think it's going to come to the best outcome. But consistently, we're landing on an outcome that we don't like.
Yeah.
So what those disenfranchised people?
I think that
I must need to speak for democracy as if you say. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get to that.
No. Actually, this is great because I graduate summa cum laude in government. Government school, 29th July, which is just a few days from now. Yeah, but I am actually a major proponent of democracy. I understand the worries that come with it, but I'm a major proponent of it. The thing that I fear for people the most in a democracy is how do you protect minorities against majorities?
Yeah.
And how do you do that in a way that majorities can accept? Because part of the problem you're speaking about is a legitimacy question, which is, okay, the result is here, but I don't accept it. That's legitimacy, which is the Supreme Court of the United States of America didn't think Roe v. Wade was something to protect. But 4 of the 7 are Republican judges. That's the way the Republicans think about it. So you've got to wait your turn until you have 4 of the 7. And that's the painful part about democracy. I see it in Uganda today. A lot of young, bright minds can't get into parliament. And that's because the construct of power is in such a way that if you have money, you can roll out a machinery that sort of kills out all the other voices. But the answer to that is to continue to talk, as frustrating as it gets. The answer to that is to continue to talk, because where we came from is a dark past.
That's true.
If I speak for like the press, there was no freedom of the press. In fact, in the initial stages of the press, like in the Spanish republics, the press was because ships used to dock, and then you'd write down what was in the ship, and then that's how the press developed in Spain. You tell people, this ship has docked, but it has gold from Africa, it has this, it has this. And that was public information that people would make a choice from, say, okay, I had this ship came, it had gold in it, I'll go to the market tomorrow and buy gold. Over the years, the king started to buy more than the ordinary person. So the king would hear that gold was coming and he would buy the whole ship, and there would not be enough gold in supply. So how do you protect minorities so that the market appreciates them? So that's the point where I get to that I say you have to create other sufficient outcomes that are not just democracy itself. And that is, you have to teach people how to talk to each other. You have to teach people how to disagree with each other. I keep emphasizing, you have to teach people how to debate with each other. It's possible that in a debate, you can lose. It's possible.
How dare you say such a thing?
Yeah, it's possible in a debate you can think that your reason outweighs the other, but many more people feel that your opponent has a logical thread and the reason is much better than yours. That if you lose that debate, it doesn't mean that your loss is eternal. You can come back to the debate and say, okay, based on this loss, this is what I think should happen. And that's something that the opposition in Uganda doesn't do a lot of, which is to say, we lost this election because we think the way it was conducted wasn't fair. So let's talk about the way that elections are conducted and the way that power structures manifest in the election cycle. And you have to be ready to also lose that debate. You can win it, but you have to be ready to lose the debate. Yeah. So I think that the thing about democracy that you need to know at heart is it will protect your property. As Joel would say, Joel has this kind of property. It's for Joel. To take it away from him, this is the law within which you can take it away. It will give you rights. It will say Joel can speak. Joel can speak about all these things. Joel may not speak in a way that angers this person or puts them on the pathway of danger. But it won't mean that every time Joel speaks, he must be heard. Yeah, that's the danger. That's really the danger. So democracy at the heart of it, like I said, is necessary, not sufficient. We have to find other things to match the democracy, and some of those things include markets. I'm not sure you want us to go there.
That's it. Several things.
Yeah, because markets are the biggest problem now of democracy.
Actually, let's look at that, because I was at Hotel Diplomat at the very top, and we're looking at the Kampala skyline, and at the same time looking at pictures of I think it was Greece, and the comment that came to my mind was, if I was to judge a civilization based on like the monuments they put up, the large things that they put up, I would say that's what they care about. Right now it looks like we care about commercial items. Like the largest buildings are going to be, you know, an office building. Am I being too elitist in saying, where are the public works? Why aren't there things that, I feel like you can have a very nice car driving on a rubbish street, but you have a nice car, so you can. So all of us are now in that rush to, we just make sure we get ours. So that sense of community, I know it's something you care about, and you've talked about markets. I think in part it's because the market system rewards, it has winners and losers. But if we're going to be in a community, we can't make it such that people lose completely to the level that things are going to be terrible. So what do we need to fix our economic system, Raymond? In one answer, tell us what we're supposed to do.
I don't think that I have answers to fixing the problem. The thing that I find the problematic about markets is the hypocrisy, which is that first the markets say, if you work hard, you get a higher reward. But Joel, who checks in at FlyHub and works 8 to 5, doesn't work more than a Sembatia who is downtown pushing a cart from midnight to midnight. The rewards for Joel for 8 to 5 are much higher than Sembatia who is midnight to midnight. So we say, okay, what's the problem? Okay, Joel is educated, Sembatia is uneducated. So let's fix the public education system. If you fix the public education system and give people the same education, again, markets will choose who succeeds and who doesn't. And then they start to choose from the point of, Joel made his money a long time ago. So because he made his money a long time ago, his son naturally comes into money. Sembatia, who was working harder than Joel, didn't make enough money, so his son has to struggle to be able to make money. So my thesis for that I just graduated from was wealth distribution and income inequality in Uganda, and it was questioning the heart of wealth distribution. In the 1900s, when we first got what we would call government here, the public collection of taxes was set up in such a way that the taxes would first go to the colony office, then the colony would decide who gets a share of this public good. I mean, if people are getting private good, and I mean, Joel can decide how he uses his money. But if Joel pays his fair share of the taxes, he doesn't decide how we use the taxes. So the crisis that we have now is that the Joels are deciding how to use their private money and deciding how to use the public money. Yeah, and that's what's dying really is the public, and it's a sense of community, like you perfectly said. And you can't inculcate that sense of community if people feel like, I've studied more than this person, so I deserve more, or if people feel like, I earn more money than this guy, so I don't deserve to be in the same places with them. It should go back to investments, public investments. You should have public parks where, you know, a rich Joel will encounter Sembatia and their families and sort of speak with each other, and that dialogue may not be exactly the way Joel wants it to happen. Yeah, but yeah, and the thing is, you can't truly stop the losers from losing. You can't stop the winners from winning. But you can create a system that's fair and equitable. Not equal, but equitable. In the sense that if Sembatia takes his son to school and that son gets a degree, the chances for success are the same for Sembate as they are for Joel. Yeah.
Okay. And besides, then that's what gets people to actually buy in. Because if you think it's a rigged system, why would you even care?
Exactly. Otherwise, you will have dialogues on wealth redistribution, which is you speak good English in the office about wealth redistribution, and a guy will meet you at Acacia and take away your phone. That's a dialogue. He thinks he thinks that you don't deserve your phone because why do you have a phone when I don't have food? Why are you able to afford an iPhone for 5 million shillings when I can't put 500 shillings on the table for food? That's a necessary dialogue in any society. You'd rather have it in a decent structure than have it in a violent structure.
Yeah. All right. I think we're almost about to wrap up, but I can't let you go without asking you one about this book club that you're starting. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I'm big on books, so please.
It was a private. Anyway, so through the years, I've been part of many book clubs that have started and failed here in Kampala. But also, I've been part of very elitist book clubs in the sense that we pick a book on markets, we read it, we come and discuss amongst ourselves. Yes, we come discuss amongst ourselves, I don't agree with the way Piketty put this issue.
Found these analysis wanting.
Yes, and then that disagreement, then it picks have some wine, go back, drive home, German Audis and the like, and go,
Yeah.
So I felt like that book club wasn't enhancing in my view. So I decided to start my own book club, which is I'm getting together a group of readers. I got tons of requests. Sorry guys if you're watching this and you've not been added to the book club yet, it's been formed, but the tons of requests, I just routinely ask questions about what books have you read and what books appeal to you, to see if you can fit in the collective. But the essence of the book club is for every book that we read, we will put books in public libraries, and we will have public reading with students in public schools. And we're insistent on public schools, which is that if you pick a Piketty book and you go on and on about it, I don't see why you shouldn't find some time to sit with Kololo SS kids and teach them about markets, teach them about democracy. It's not information they've encountered, but now that you're there talking to them, they've encountered that information, and a copy of the book will remain at the school and they will read it if they get interested in it. So the point is really to have a sense of community and purpose to the reading. It's again not a democratic space, so we can't have everyone who requests to join the space. We've laid down some rules with some folks already in the book club, which is if you get a recommendation, a strong recommendation from someone in the book club, we will discuss it at the next book club and add it to the book club. There's a mandatory contribution that goes towards buying. We are all reading the books, we're buying them for ourselves, but we are also buying those books for public schools. So if it's 30 of us, we'll buy 15 books. So that mandatory contribution goes towards putting those books in a public school. So if we have 12 book clubs every year, we'll be raising enough books to put in public schools, we'll be having enough dialogue in public schools. We'll also get to a point where we can afford to have authors go directly to the schools and see how their work is impacting the people that are reading it. So that's precisely it. But it's still a very exclusive club.
Of course.
Sadly, it relies on the fact that you have to be able to read. It relies on the fact that you have to know, have a social network. We can't decentralize it in a way that makes sense.
If people wanted to contribute, let's say they're maybe not able to join, but they know the books that you're going through and they say, I'd like those to be more publicly available. Would you take contributions that would go towards buying those books?
I think we will. We would definitely consider that. I just got a request from Rotary, which was running a Dear campaign just, I think, yesterday. And they said, we're able to collect money from Rotary, but we don't know what books to buy and where to put them. And part of the members of the book club are 5 literature teachers from public schools, so we've asked them to write down what they think the needs of schools are, and the Rotary will give them, I think, about 15 million shillings, and they'll buy books and they'll put them in school. Our job is just make sure that the 15 million reaches them, and they buy the books and they put the books in school. Yeah, but there's other people doing great work. 4040 is doing Angaza Learning Centers. You can contribute to them. There's a public library, KCC, a public library. Many people don't know about it. Please walk there, read the books there, pay the mandatory 1K so that they can clean the place and put some Wi-Fi for us. Okay. Yeah, but that's precisely it.
I'm going to do an episode there.
Yeah.
Two last questions. Obviously, I'm a big fan of philosophy. I'm trying to, get people to see it as not this highbrow thing. But, it's definitely a very elite thing, but I'm trying to say it's accessible. I'm trying to make it more accessible. I asked you who your top philosophers are. I think I asked you what philosophy motivates your life. And you mentioned 3 philosophers. Could you just maybe touch on those and why you picked those thinkers?
Yeah. So one is Aristotle. Mostly for the way that he opens my mind to understanding community, sense of purpose, and your role as an individual in community. So I love Aristotle for that. I love Confucius mostly because of discipline. A lot of the philosophers from Asia are really concerned about discipline, and I guess that one of the things that I abhor the most about democracy is that it creates freedoms that don't warrant disciplines to them. So I'm also concerned about discipline, because without a discipline, there's no incremental growth to people. So I truly love that. I love Plato, so now I'm torn between Plato and Socrates. I'm torn between Plato and Socrates, but I choose Plato mostly because a lot of what we consider to be the Republic today, a lot of separation of powers, how people vote, enabling more people to participate in the fundamental affairs that affect them, a lot of that is actually built off his brain. And part of that is really paying it forward and saying, okay, you guys did this before, and I love that about you. But I also love Paul Cafero. You can't quantify him in the Western description of philosophy. But I guess when you pick his discography and listen to it more intently, you realize this is someone that talked a great deal about how people relate with each other, talked a great deal about tradition. He talked a great deal about the clash between civilizations and the lack of respect for the African civilization. He talked a great deal about discipline. In his final years, actually, a lot of his songs were about discipline, marital discipline, discipline around alcohol. I guess that many people know him for Dipo Nazigala, which really spoke about the thing that's alcohol and how it's affecting people. So I love that about him. There are others like Herman Basude, but sadly, they are not documented. So you'd have to go out on a wild goose chase for them. You'd have to search in deep corners to listen to their music. But they form fundamental building blocks to the kind of society that we have today. And I don't think that we should lose their voice. There are others who are public figures like John Babiha, great-grandfather, who this road is named after. I don't think he'd be happy if he came back and found a number of nightclubs that are there. But I guess that one of the things I want to do before I pass on, to be of use to community, is to be able to document these people at length and have their knowledge readily available. Stanislas Mugwanya, Ignatius Kanga, a lot of them have their knowledge just scattered in places. Okay.
Man, I don't want to end the time. This is my last question for you. You're a father, you're a husband, you have seemingly 1,000 jobs, plus you're engaged in community. I saw you playing the sax.
Yeah.
I think you play chill. When do you just chill and watch TV? Well, how do you relax? You look like those guys who go home and you do productive things to relax. Is that the case?
No. So I guess what's the definition of relax?
Like for us, we just become mindless. This is the thing. I think my whole take on this is people work, their productive hours are almost owned by someone else. Then when they go back, they don't want to be challenged too much. You know, just let me listen to the songs I know, watch the TV I know, have a drink, and just move on by. You don't seem to be taking that route.
So I'm worried about explaining this in a way that isn't imposing. The thing that I find heartless about many of my friends is this, and Karl Marx did it very well, the labor theory of value, that if what you're doing isn't adding value, then you're not at work. So people, for example, sitting with yourself is not considered to be something of value. But every morning before I start my day, I sit with myself. Something my wife will tell you. She used to be perturbed about it, now she gave up, which is I wake up and I just do nothing but just sit with myself. It helps me process my thoughts. Sometimes those thoughts are useless. Sometimes they are, why is this screw here and not here? But allowing my brain to process and say, maybe this screw is here because that's the only way to hold these two pieces together. That enables me to have intellectual discovery of my own, but also enables my brain to be active. It's the same thing with the saxophone. I mean, it's a musical instrument, yeah. People play it and earn money from it, yes. But when I'm playing the saxophone, it's really, I want to learn the discipline of music, which is, why is music arranged along these notes, along these lines? Why can't it be played outside of these lines? Why do people get to decide what's music and what's not? And I guess that what the saxophone has taught me is a great deal. It's taught me a great deal of patience, which I need in a democracy like ours. Try to put out a tune on a saxophone, and you will realize that not everything is down to your effort. Some of those things are down to other.
I'm trying.
Yes, and it enables me to also remain sane and know that my efforts pay off in some way. And it's something I'm also learning with our child now. Look here, you're crying. I think it's a diaper. I fix the diaper. I think it's milk. I give you the milk. I think you want to be carried. I carry you, but you still cry. And I feel, okay, this is an expression of how you feel. How do I feel about how you feel? I feel angry. So I have to express myself about how you feel, but in a way that protects you. And that enables me to also like sort of find my place in the world and enable other people around me find their places in the world through interaction with me. Yeah. I have an ego the size of a pea. It's very small, so I don't intend to have any legacy. I don't. When I look back, I want to die and die. It will be up to those people who remain to remember me, and it shouldn't be them remembering me in the way that I want to be remembered. It should be how they wish to remember me. I mean, the guy that types at work might say, Raymond, he's the guy who used to bring a lot of work. That's how they will remember me. Progressively, my memory will die out of it. I don't think I'll be of such impact. But yeah, that's the kind of legacy that I'll leave behind, I hope, which is that he lived his life, lived it well. This is how I encountered him. This is what I thought about him when I encountered him. This is how I feel now about him, that he's dead. Also, I know there's a great many people who feel very good about me now. When I die, I don't think that they'll feel good about it. Yeah, that's really up to them. I'll have died. I believe that there's another world. I'll have crossed into the other world. Maybe I'll come back as a pea. Maybe I'll not be in this world. Yeah, but in that other world, I'll be doing other things that are more appealing than thinking about how people think about me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, cheers.